Alright, here we go. I figured everybody else is making a video talking about how terrible the Acolyte is, so I thought, why not be a very original YouTuber by also making a video and telling you all why the Acolyte is so terrible. But I kind of want to go more in depth. Now, I could really go into each episode and break down episodes 3 and 4 and what's wrong with it and why it ruins Star Wars and whatnot. But I feel like other YouTubers have already done it better, done it to death, so I'm not really going to do all that stuff for you guys today. All I'm going to talk about is why I think this show is doing so terribly, what larger mistakes were made to put us in a position where this is what we're getting out of Disney Star Wars still to this day, and just kind of like air kind of my frustrations about Star Wars as a whole at the moment, which I do a lot of this channel, but we're going to do more of it here. Now, I put out a review for the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte a few weeks ago, and I was like relatively positive about it. I said in that review that I was not super happy with the show, but I thought the first 2 episodes offered enough intrigue in the story that maybe they could do something interesting with it. And then I would wait for 2 episodes before I came back on here and talked about the show again. Now I've watched the next 2 episodes, and they've done nothing with the intrigue. Now, people have already memed to death episode 3, the episode that apparently destroys the idea of Star Wars, destroys a lot of the canon, the ideas of the Force. They destroy the fact that Anakin's this special kid born of the Force, because you have these 2 twins that are now born of the Force. None of it makes any sense. You have space witches that die from a fire that burns stone. Fire also burns in space in the show. It was just a really bad episode, highlighted by one of the silliest scenes I've ever seen in television.
Power 1, power 2. The power of many.
You also have episode 4 now, which is really just a walking simulator. It is a Strand type episode where these people walk through a forest for like 30 minutes, and then you get a tease at the end of them fighting a Sith, which, yet again, them fighting a Sith still doesn't make sense, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt in the last 2 episodes that maybe they've seen The Phantom Menace. Maybe they've seen that scene, and maybe they'll find a way to get around it. But how do we get to this point? How do we have a point that we have The Acolyte, a show coming out on Disney Plus that is a big Star Wars show with a big budget and in a time period that is new and unique and should lend itself to new characters, yet for some reason the fans are still miserable. For some reason the show is still falling far short of quality expectations from Star Wars fans. And this is a question I've been asking myself for years, because we look at Star Wars right now and it's just been dead for so long, and Disney just continues to shoot itself in the foot over and over and over and over and over. And I kind of want to just state the obvious of what they're doing wrong here. And there's a bunch of things I could say. Virtual signaling, not listening to fans, just being very lazy, all those things. But I think it really comes down to hiring. I think Disney has done a really shit job at hiring people to make these shows. Now, I just want to say this is not going to be a personal attack on anybody that has worked on Star Wars films, but there is something that Disney has done with all of these shows and these movies that has diluted the product, and that is hire directors and filmmakers and writers that are just not qualified yet to be making these big shows. And I'm not saying that some of the people that have worked on these shows and movies aren't great filmmakers, are not great writers. The issue is that Star Wars is a property that should have been treated as something you work for in Hollywood, not something you get where you made a great indie film that blew up at the festival scene. Now you get to do a big $100 million Star Wars movie, or you directed a couple episodes, or you show ran a relatively popular TV show. Now you get to do a $300 million Star Wars show. No. Star Wars should have been treated as something like, wow, you've been working in the industry for 20 years and you're one of the top filmmakers alive. You can go and make a Star Wars trilogy or a Star Wars film. The people directing Star Wars projects over the last decade should have been the top people in Hollywood, the cream of the crop. We should have been talking about guys like Denis Villeneuve, Christopher Nolan, David Fincher, and I know that not all of these people probably were interested in directing Star Wars stuff, but that's the type of quality of filmmakers that should be working on this. Instead, we are not now at a point where we have people like Leslie Hyland working on Star Wars. And listen, Leslie Hyland might be a great person, she might be a big Star Wars fan, and this is just a big goof for her, but if you look at her filmography, okay, how does this person get a $300 million Star Wars show? To me, it makes no sense. And when you give out big jobs like this to people that are unqualified for the big jobs, and then things end up being shit, it completely dilutes the franchise as a whole. It makes it less likely that big filmmakers in the future will come on and work on these films. You see it with Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, the woman that's attached to do the Rey movie. You look at her filmography, and it's like, how the hell did this person get the job directing a Star Wars film? It's kind of absurd. Deborah Chow, who ran, the Obi-Wan show, is in charge of that. Another person, not a very large filmography. Now, I understand a lot of people are going to say, well, they were hired because they were women. That, I think, is a stupid argument as well, because there are a lot of fantastic women out there that are completely qualified to make Star Wars projects, some of which have. Bryce Dallas Howard, I think, has done a great job directing episodes of The Mandalorian. You have people like Greta Gerwig out there who are incredible, who maybe she has no interest in doing this, but there are fantastic female filmmakers out there working at the top of Hollywood. What are they doing here? You have set the standard so low for the kinds of people you're bringing in to make these movies, and yet again, this is not an attack on any of these people. Some of these people actually have turned out some great quality Star Wars stuff, but when you're setting the bar low that this is the qualification and the standard you have to make Star Wars films, you are setting the standard low for the quality you're actually expecting of the television show. Star Wars should have been a brand that it is a privilege, an honor to have the right to direct a film or a television show in the genre, so that when you actually made a film or a TV show, you would have these gigantic filmmakers who have a history of writing and creating banger after banger
after banger after banger
come onto the project and deliver what you've known they can deliver. If you actually look at what has worked for Disney Star Wars, which movies have worked, which TV shows have worked, Rogue One is like the best thing they made. Gareth Edwards is a very phenomenal director. Is he one of the top tier ones? No, but he's probably the closest thing they've gotten to hiring one. He had directed a big budget blockbuster movie with Godzilla 2014 that was exceptionally, made, exceptionally received, and it was no surprise that Rogue One was also a great movie. With Solo, a Star Wars movie, they hired the guys behind, the Lego films and the Spider-Verse films, and they fired them because I guess they were being too creative for Kathleen Kennedy's touch. I mean, the film still ended up being pretty good. You look at Jon Favreau, who's done a great job with The Mandalorian, Dave Filoni, who has a lot of history with Star Wars. They produced good content because they have a history of producing quality content. It hasn't always been a hit. You, of course, had Rian Johnson, who I think is one of the top 10 filmmakers today. I think he is an incredible filmmaker, and he just shit the bed with The Last Jedi. But just because that happened does not mean we have to stop hiring top people. And if you look at the future, the people that are attached to the future projects, sure, you have James Mangold, who is attached to do a Star Wars movie, but you look at what Disney did with James Mangold with Indiana Jones, and it's like, God, big studios kind of ruined this guy, so I don't really trust that his movie's gonna be great. Taika Waititi has really kind of fallen off with his big studio Marvel films lately. Like, I just don't know what you're gonna get from his Star Wars thing. To me, I feel like people should not be surprised at Star Wars' downfall, because you look at the quality of filmmakers they're hiring, and it's people that have no proven track record at developing projects this big. And you hand them a check for $100 million, $200 million, $300 million, and what do you get? You get this shit.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb.
And then the Star Wars fans complain. And what does Star Wars do? Now, I'm not going to sit here and complain about Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger because I've done that a million times. You know how I feel about them. I don't love them. But I'm so sick of them every time we complain about a TV show, calling Star Wars fans sexist, calling Star Wars fans racist, that's the reason we don't like the show. That's the reason we hate it, because they're doing woke nonsense and we hate woke nonsense. No, the reason we hate it is because you're making bad shows that feel small and feel like they were produced for the CW network. You're not making movies anymore, and the movies that you are making are movies that nobody asks for. You continuously say that Star Wars fans hate Star Wars more than anybody else. No, that is not true. That is not true at all. What is true is that the people making Star Wars films hate Star Wars fans more than anybody. Y'all hate us. You hate Star Wars fans. You just don't want us to be happy, which is why you don't do anything that the masses of Star Wars fans want. So yet again, I'm not going to sit here and completely complain about The Acolyte, but yeah, it is another shitstorm. It is a disaster of a TV show that everybody else is pooping on, so I'm not going to say anything original if I start going beat for beat. We'll see how the last 2 episodes turn out, but I just feel like it's not surprising that this show is what it is. It's not surprising the reaction for fans at this point, and it's not going to be surprising when all of the other shows, maybe besides like Andor, end up being received the same way that this one is, because they continue to hire people that maybe they're big Star Wars fans, maybe they've done one thing really good in their film career, but they're hiring people that have a track record as thin as pretty much anybody's that works in the film industry. Most of the people have 1, maybe 2 credits for Star Wars. To me, this is insane. And that's why Star Wars is dead. They diluted the brand, diluted the franchise to the point where people expect everything to be bad, and they don't care about the quality of filmmakers because they know it won't change much at this point. That's sad. It's sad to see. But you know what? It is what it is at this point. To me, I've been mourning Star Wars since 2019. For me, it's been dead since 2019. I don't think it's ever coming back unless Disney wakes up one day and goes, huh, maybe we should sell Star Wars. Let's give A24 a call. Let's give Warner Brothers a call. I feel like Warner Brothers would do a much better job. But no, nope, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. So that's it. What do you guys think of The Acolyte? Let me know down below. Tell me how stupid I am. Tell me that The Acolyte is the greatest thing that has ever been created. That my dumb, puny, intellectual mind could not understand the powerful nature of stone being burnt by fire. Fuck off. Like, what the fuck? Be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications. I'll see you in the next one.